Welcome to Exploring Anime with Friends, a JMO for Real podcast on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. I'm your host, JMO.
And today's friend is my wife and co-host, Sarah. How's it going today, Sarah?
It's going great.
Awesome. Are you excited for today's episode?
I am. This is a good show.
In this episode, we will be exploring the world of Yuri on Ice, a sports drama featuring ice skating and themes of love. Released in October of 2016. For the next 20 to 25 minutes, we will explore the first season of Yuri on Ice. First, we will learn a little about Yuri and the path he has taken in life. Next, we will learn about the day that Victor and the other Yuri came into his life and changed everything. Afterwards, we will dive into the amazing cast of characters and their stories that comprise this compelling narrative. And finally, we will explore the path to the Grand Prix Finals. And remember, if you like what you hear today, follow us on social media, listed in the show notes. Yuri. Talk to us about Yuri, hon.
Before I talk about Yuri, I want to talk about the fantastic theme song. It's uplifting, it's dramatic, it's great, and I absolutely love it.
We were born to make history.
But it's just better than that. It says, we'll make it happen, we'll turn it around. So there's implications that even if you didn't feel like you were born to make history, you can be. That's great.
Yeah, that's kind of the story of Yuri. He's somebody who had to turn it around. He's getting older. He's not young. For an ice skater, he's not young. He's now 23 years old, and he's coming off of a utter failure in the national finals the previous year. But the first thing I want to say, everyone talks about it. Like, he talks about it the whole time about how it was so tragic and everything, and I'm kind of like, he was in the national finals.
He was.
of a worldwide sport. Like, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, embarrassing yourself on the largest stage is always humiliating, but there's something to be said about making the largest stage.
Yeah.
That I don't like how much it's downplayed throughout the course of this. But at the same time, he continues to downplay it because that's who he is. He's someone who lacks the self-confidence. Yeah. He's someone who lets his body go out of shape in a pretty significant way in the offseason. He's someone who ended that Grand Prix finals wondering what path his life would take after that, going back to his hometown. Talk to us a little about his overall personality and, really the path that he's on at that point.
So at that point, he's kind of let down. Like, he feels like he let himself down. He feels like he let his family down. He's in a really rough spot. And even, like, when he returns home, he sees all these posters of him that, like, his family posted and all, like, the townspeople recognize him. And he's very bashful about it because he lost. He didn't get anywhere. He made it to the finals, but he did not win.
Yeah, it goes into the mentality of how crushing a defeat can actually take someone out, especially when they didn't have the confidence to begin with. But also the flip side of that narrative, too, how he's still the hometown hero. There are still people around the world that looked up to him, and he can't see it because he can't find his own self-worth. And really, this is something that he's not a super introvert. He's not Bochy.
Yeah, right. He's no Bochy.
But he's more on the introverted side. He's his hardest critic, and he just thinks he's a failure, despite the fact that people around him realize he's a success. And he goes on the path learning about what he can become, learning how to love. That brings us to the fateful day that he goes back to his family's place that has the hot springs, and he runs into the number one ice skater in the world, Victor Nikiforov. Talk to us about Victor.
Victor is definitely an interesting character. He's there, he's in the hot springs, he's just kind of having a good old time, but he came there with a purpose. When Yuri got back, he goes and visits the ice skating rink that he's done all his training with. And while he's there, he's just literally does one of Victor's amazing routines flawlessly. And his hometown friend video records it, and then one of their kids grabs it and blasts it on social media. So Victor sees it.
It goes viral overnight, and this not only catches Victor's attention, but it also catches the other Yuri's attention, later known as Yurio, because one of the things that we didn't mention in Yuri's background is that when he was closing out, after in his mind he made a fool of himself on the national stage, he's confronted in the bathroom by the other Yuri, whose first year of eligibility for the senior men's bracket is going to be next year. And he's like, you better retire because there's no room for 2 Yuris on ice.
Yeah, kind of mean about it, which did wonders for Yuri's self-esteem already that was deflated.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was deflated, and then it was just kind of like shattered at that point in time.
The Russian punk, that's what Yurio was called. This just like lays him out like that.
A little 15-year-old laying out a 23-year-old. But, Victor comes, and he immediately starts to change everything.
Yeah. So Victor steps in, he's like, I'm going to be your coach. And Yuri's like, what? And he tells Yuri he's going to train him for the next Grand Prix.
So, meanwhile, that news starts to get out, and people are noticing that Victor is there with Yuri, and Yurio is like, oh, no, you promised to make my program. So he flies off from Russia. By the way, Victor is Russian, Yuri is Japanese, the other Yurio is also Russian too. He takes off and flies from Russia to Japan to confront Victor and the other Yuri.
Because Victor made a promise. Victor promised that...
He promised Yurio that if he won the Junior Grand Prix...
Without doing like a quadruple Salchow, because he really wasn't ready to do it. Like the triples were just better because that's where he was training-wise. Yurio does that. And he's like, oh, you go off to Japan? No. You promised me that if I got the gold and if I didn't do the quadruples, that you would make my own routine.
So what does Victor do? He mentors both Yuris. We have to make something clear. Victor is not an experienced coach.
Great ice skater.
Both of these Yuris, the young 15-year-old and the one who thinks himself a failure, are much better ice skaters than Victor is a coach at this point in time.
He's learning. Victor's learning what he needs to do.
He doesn't have the ability to really reprimand pretty much throughout the whole thing. What he does, he sees what they're lacking and makes it their strength.
Yeah.
He knew that both of the Yuris lacked love in a different way. Yurio lacked unconditional agape love, and Yuri lacked romantic love.
The Eros.
Eros and Agape. Talk to us a little bit about the skating routines, Eros and Agape.
So, at first, when Victor's like, I can kind of train both of you, but why don't we make this a competition? There's a song, it's got 2 different parts. One that's based off of the Agape unconditional love, and one that's based off of the Eros, sexual love. We'll give you each a routine, and we'll pick a winner. So from that, he gives Yurio the Agape love, because even though, we all have that person that has shown us some kind of unconditional love, Yurio just doesn't see it. He even says, Agape love, that's not even real, somewhere in there. So he gives that to Yurio, and to Yuri, he gives the Eros love, because Yuri's just been focused on everything but love most of his life, it seems.
So awkward.
Yeah, he's very awkward in that sense, or oblivious. I mean, it could just be both, to be honest.
Probably more oblivious than awkward. I actually like your take there.
Yeah. He gives them both a routine for them to perform, and they just... His hometown city hears about this, of course, because everyone's, listening in, and it just blows up into this really cool little mini Grand Prix, almost, between Yurio and Yuri.
Eventually, they both find what it is. Yurio realizes that the Agape love is the love of his grandfather that is poured into his life throughout all these years. It's
actually a really beautiful moment when he realizes it.
And at that point in time, he just knows what it feels, though it evolves further as the story goes on, because this isn't just about Yuri. This is a tale of Yurio too.
Yeah.
It's our main protagonist is Yuri, but when we talk about Yuri on ice, I'm really picturing both of them.
That's fair.
I'm not picturing one of them.
I like that.
Even if one is painted a little more as an antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he really finds it. And Yuri finds his Eros love. It's in a bowl of pork cutlets.
I really want to know what this pork cutlet tastes like. Because he, shouts it while they're eating that's his Eros. And then he immediately feels awkward and embarrassed, which, I'm sorry, Yuri, you should have. That's the strangest thing I've ever heard compared to that kind of love with food.
Yeah, right? Honestly, it's... I'm not trying to make this out like it's a comedy or anything. Because
for
the most part... There are funny moments, but this isn't a comedy. It isn't designed to pull out the funny moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and really he was kind of finding a hard way to explain it, because that's the dish that he would reward himself with when he did great for skating, and the people he shared it with. And it was probably more of a philos, a brotherly love, than an Eros at that point in time. But that changes as the series goes on. And frankly, he starts to realize he has feelings.
Yeah.
If you like what you're hearing so far, be sure to watch this on Crunchyroll, home to over 1,000 simulcast and anime, both subbed and dubbed. Alright, so as the journey is going on, Yuri runs into a lot of fun, interesting people.
Yes.
Because he didn't podium at the last Grand Prix finals, he has to go through the whole circuit, and he has 3 stops that he's going to have to make along the way. There's 3 qualifiers and the Grand Prix finals. And there, he runs into his biggest fan, someone who he has inspired throughout. And his biggest fan is Kenjiro, a young, wide-eyed boy who has looked up to and idolized Yuri this whole time. And Yuri just doesn't understand it. And he kind of like blows it off, like he's not worthy of it. And then Victor looks him square in the eye afterwards. You're not going to be a good skater. If you can't inspire him, I don't know why I'm wasting my time with you. Because for Victor, that was so important, and it hurt him so much that Yuri just kind of blew off Kenjiro at first. And then Kenjiro takes the ice, and Yuri realizes, now I understand. Now I'm learning a little bit more. And he shouts out for Kenjiro, and that makes his night. And he's just so excited and everything. And he has a heartfelt moment with Yuri and points out, it's like, when you degrade yourself, you're really degrading everyone that looks up to you. Yep. You are important. You are special. Mm-hmm. And this is the last time we see this character. We see him for 2 episodes. He doesn't go any further. Yuri defeats him. Yuri wins gold here. This was the easiest leg of the journey because this is the leg where a lot of people just get knocked out. But for me, this character had almost as much of an impact on Yuri as anyone else. Talk to us. Talk to us about one of your favorite characters from along the way.
So you don't see him in China. You see him later. But there's one guy that, I don't know, I have kind of a love-hate for, and that's JJ.
Yeah, I knew who you were going to say right before you said love-hate.
Because he's like...
The Canadian, eh?
Yeah, he's Canadian. There's nothing wrong with that.
He's got more sass and obnoxiousness than the rest of Canada put together.
Probably. He's just, like, arrogance. Like, just, he's like, I'm going to win it.
His short program, because they do a short program and a long program on back-to-back days every show, and it's like the Ballad of King JJ.
That's right.
Is like, the name of his short program.
Literally what it's called.
And the lyrics are like singing out his name and how awesome he is in the second half of it.
It's just like, this guy, he's so full of himself. I mean, it's something when you can kind of back up that you're full of yourself, because he's a great skater. He's excellent.
Well, he was number 2 in the world, the Victor, this past year, and he was the hands-on favorite. Yeah. And frankly, he just dominates the Russian Grand Prix, the third stage.
Yeah.
He only had to do 2 legs because he was a podium finisher, and he won both legs.
Yeah.
And frankly, it wasn't close. It just wasn't close. And the funny thing is, Victor's getting older. JJ's 19.
Oh my gosh.
Like, JJ was in his prime. Victor competed. JJ might be like a close odds, if not even a favorite, versus Victor.
I didn't realize he was that young. I thought he was closer to like 2021.
Yeah, no, Victor, I don't know if we ever get Victor's age during the course of the whole thing, but Victor's definitely older than Yuri. As a matter of fact, he's probably closer to the age of 25 because his longtime rival in the sport is Kristoff, who is the 25-year-old skater who has found his season a little bit on the boring side because Victor's not there. You know, Yuri's doing his short program is the Eros skate that Victor taught him, and his long program is a piece that his friend composed for him that feels like his true musical journey. Talk to us about the musical journey.
So for the actual piece that they call it Yuri on Ice, it's kind of beautiful, to be honest. It starts out a little slow, which I feel like kind of embodies like how Yuri was feeling at the beginning of like the series, where like everything was just kind of like not there for him, and everything was kind of falling apart. He placed last, and eventually it just picks up a little more and a little more, and it's beautiful.
And there's that defining moment in the song where represents the moment that he meets Victor from there, it just kind of escalates, and he does all of his vibrant jumps and everything in the second half of it, and it's really just kind of discovers his musical journey. We said all that to say this. Christoph is kind of taken back by Yuri because he's kind of like, you're going to dance to Eros. Well, Christoph
I am Eros.
He's like, I'm dancing to Intoxicated.
Yes.
And he just kind of like, and this is the China Cup, he just kind of shuts Yuri down. He's like, oh yeah, no, you definitely beat me in that department. Christoph is definitely that very flamboyant, vibrant character who has no shame whatsoever and is really just kind of calls out everything as he sees it. He's the fun character, but and he shares the podium with Yuri in China and ends up being one of the other contestants for the Grand Prix finals. And the other one that shares the podium with Yuri in China is a young man by the name of Peachy. Oh, Christoph's from Switzerland, for the record. Oh, and Sarah's pointing out that Viktor Nikiforov is 27 years old.
Yeah.
So, 27 to 19 was going to be a little bit of gap for Viktor to JJ this coming year.
Yeah.
But Peachy, what is special about Peachy?
What's really cool about that character is he's the first, competitive ice skater from Thailand.
Thailand's an equator country.
Gotta really make a...
It's an equator country. He's dealing with people from Switzerland and from Russia, Kazakhstan and Japan and Canada. It's kind of like he is an underdog's underdog, but he is something really special. And he's actually being coached by Yuri's former coach. He ends up being another one of the representatives that goes to the World Finals. At this point in time, we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up that Yurio also punches his ticket in the Russian finals as he shares the podium with JJ. Yuri takes fourth in that competition to make it as the final person into the Grand Prix finals. But there's one other mystery character that we have not seen up to this point in time. Someone who comes out of nowhere, someone who Yuri doesn't have to skate against along the way at all. His name is Otavek, and he's the first one ever to represent Kazakhstan. Talk to us a little about Otavek.
Unfortunately, we don't get that much about him. When he was younger, he was in ballet, and that somehow he got in the same class with Yurio, and Yurio is just so much better.
And Yurio is the one who inspires him
to
become better, to become stronger, to push with all he has, because he wasn't the natural talent that so many of these other ones were. He was the hard worker who grinded his way there. And when he sees Yurio at the Grand Prix finals, he pulls him to the side and he takes him out. And he's kind of like, you were my inspiration, and we're going to take first and second.
And we're friends now, basically.
Yeah, and we're friends now.
Now.
At that point in time, you see Yurio really kind of experience friendship for the first time.
Yeah.
So the six of them are going in, and they're all getting ready, and they end up having dinner with each other the night before, just kind of coincidentally. Everyone's out and about, and they all run into each other. And at this point in time, we start to really, really know that the Eros element is no longer the pork cutlet bowl for Yuri.
Yeah.
It is now Viktor.
Yeah, definitely.
Talk to us about the relationship and the moment that we did not see at the beginning that set up the whole thing, that we got the flashback in episode 11.
So, basically what happened was, at the end of the previous year, there's always a cool big party. Yuri, who is going through a lot because he lost, he gets drunk.
And Christoph gets the whole thing on camera, because that's the type of guy Christoph is.
It was more than just Christoph. I think Yurio said something about it. But along that way, he tells Viktor that he wants Viktor to be his coach. But, that's Viktor just came off a big win.
And he's challenging everyone at dance-offs and everything. Yeah. But at that moment, Viktor realizes that it's like, yes, I want to do this. I care about him, and I'm going to do this. And it's something that you didn't see at all. It's kind of random that he saw Yuri perform his piece and then show up the next day out of nowhere. But that's not the story. The story goes back all the way to the previous year, and Viktor already knew at that point in time that he was going to mold and mentor. And we have a little bit of varying opinions. I for one think that it's that though there's a chance that something happens there, like with Natsu and Lucy, that it's not concretely there by the end. I think Viktor really just saw what the two Yuris were lacking and he poured into them the love that they personally needed.
I mean, as much as I agree with that, I think Victor loved Yuri from the beginning of the series. I really do. There's like little things that I didn't catch on the first watch, but when I rewatched the first couple episodes, I was like, this is flirting. It's just Yuri doesn't see it.
Now we're at the point we're at the Grand Prix finals, and frankly, you guys are going to have to watch this yourself to get those results, because I'm going to let you know right now, it is absolutely amazing
great.
What happens.
It's such a good ending.
You really feel like you're watching real professional athletes, but even to a greater level, it's not just you feel like you're watching real professional individual sport players. It's like you're actually reading about their lives too. Like, you know how when you're really into an athlete, how you don't just watch them play, you also just read every story you can about them, learn their history. You really feel connected to these athletes on this stage. They didn't waste a single line. They didn't waste 10 seconds at any point in time during the course of this series. They wrote a beautiful narrative. As far as I'm concerned, for me, this only required one watch, because I already knew and was connected to most of the characters. And I'm going to flat out put it out there. I ain't into ice skating at all. I don't watch it. I don't watch it in the Winter Olympics.
I appreciate it. No one
I don't dislike it.
Yeah.
I'm just passionately indifferent about it. But for me, this was special. I feel like it cracks my top 10 all time, but I don't know, because it feels so different that I almost want to classify it in a different category altogether. How about you, hon?
I mean, yeah, that does kind of sum it up. I like slice of life. I'm more of a fantasy kind of person, but this one took me places. It was really good. We're not going to spoil the ending, but like, I really like how it ended.
Amazing ending. I hope you had as much fun exploring the first season of Yuri on Ice as we did, and consider watching the anime.
So if you like what you heard today, make sure to listen to us on Apple and Spotify. All of our podcasts are there. All of the J-Mail for Real podcasts are on there. Check us out on social media and interact with us there. It is linked in the show notes. Until next time, this has been Exploring Anime with Friends, a J-Mail for Real podcast. Let's explore together.
And we're talking a little post-credits right now, and... Yeah, no. I mean, we did this with Bocchi the Rock, and I feel like I had something else to say. You had something else to say, too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I had to say about this that we didn't really cover during the show is the fact that this is one of those anime where if they never come out with a second season, I'm completely okay.
Yeah,
it
that's
ended
fair.
perfect. But if they come out with it,
I'll watch
it's
it.
not going to ruin it.
Yeah.
Like, so few things in fiction, period, let alone anime, in fiction, period, where I feel like that at the end. Because most of the time, I'm disappointed by the end.
Yeah.
Or a little let down, or I already
fair.
knew it was coming, so it wasn't as special. Or sometimes it just wraps up so perfectly that I don't want to see anything from it again.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Futurama, Phineas and Ferb, which both have
I still want to watch both of
continuing
those.
series. But like, I felt them not needed. Like, this, I feel like it's not needed, a second season, but I definitely also feel like I would be excited if I heard it was announced. What about you?
So there was this one particular scene in the China Grand Prix where Yuri he's having a breakdown. And that happens quite a bit. So they're in like the parking garage or something. I don't remember. I think Victor's dog like swallowed a ball or something. And Yuri's like, you've got to go back. And either way, Victor's like, listen, if you lose this, it's because I'm a bad coach and I'll stop being your coach. And I was like, what kind of anime moment is this? How many times does the freaking mentor say something to like shatter their pupil? Excuse me. And the pupil though is like, no, I'm going to do good. I'm going to be better. I'm going to prove that I'm the best person you could be a mentor for. Yuri starts crying. And he's like, Victor, why would you say that? Because at this point, their relationship's going pretty strong as, like, mentor and pupil. And Victor's, like, kind of taken aback. Like, he wasn't expecting Yuri to just break down, cry. And he doesn't really know what Yuri needs. And finally, Yuri's like, just have more faith in me than I do myself. And that one line just sealed it all to me. It blew me away. I was like, how many times you need someone in your corner to believe in you more than you actually believe in yourself. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful line.
Oh, way to save like the best content of the show.
I wanted to say it
post credits.
I wanted to say it when we were talking about the China stuff, but everything just flowed past it. I was like, oh, I can say it now, and we can just jump back, and then we just kept going. And I was
That's
like,
literally gonna be the clip we use to advertise his show.
Sorry,
but at the same time, it's not actually really part of the show.
I'm sorry.
Oh well. With that, signing off, right?
Okay, yeah.